Today, we are going to talk about transferring wealth to the next generation using whole life insurance. Today's video will be based on a case study of a couple our company is presently working with, and they are interested in whole life insurance, firstly, to maximize the cash value. Dad is interested in maximizing that cash value so he can use it for opportunities when they come around. And then second, leaving a legacy. Dad has a concern of leaving money to the next generation. You'll see his 3 adult children, and he wants to leave the money as efficiently as possible. So we'll go through the details of the family situation, and then we'll go through the specific strategy. Let's have some fun, shall we? All right, so we've got mom and dad. They are currently retired. Mom is 68 years old, dad is 70 years old. They have 3 adult children, all in their 30s. In retirement, they live comfortably. Their income, they live off more than they presently need, which is really, really good. And a big reason why is because of their retirement assets. They've got about $7 million in assets, which consists of investments, real estate, Roth accounts, and an IRA. We're going to talk about the IRA. That's what we'll focus on today. But this guy right here, the real estate, they own a little bit less than 20 apartments, which generate income for them. So they're in a good position in terms of their income. They also have other sources of income. So right now they're looking at their situation and saying, okay, we are comfortable right now in terms of what we live on. I do want to have access to capital for opportunities. That's why we're going to put an emphasis on maximizing the cash value in his whole life insurance policy. But he also wants to leave a death benefit to his children. That is a very big concern here. So what we're going to focus on is this guy, the IRA, which has a balance presently of about $1.7 million. And this has performed quite nicely since he's had it. Now, it's an IRA, meaning the growth has been tax deferred. When he pulls money from this, what's going to happen? He'll have to pay income tax on the full dollar amount he pulls out. And that income will be added to his current income. So for example, if he's living on $100,000 right now, and he pulls out another $100,000 from his IRA, his taxable income will be what? $200,000 for the year. So his concern right now, and what we just wanted to talk about and lay out on a spreadsheet so we could see the actual numbers, is as follows. Steve, if I take money out now, I'm going to have to pay tax on that. In fact, I'm going to be forced to take money out now because of RMDs. But if I don't take money out now, or I take the minimum amount possible out right now, and my children get this IRA, well, they're going to have to pay taxes, and likely a large tax rate as well, because some of his children do very well. They earn a lot of income. So if they receive a qualified account, what's going to happen? They're going to have to pay ordinary income tax on it. And yes, there are things you can do if you inherit an IRA as far as stretching it, but he's not that interested in that. He does want to leave money more efficiently. And I'll say this, because he's in a good position right now, he set himself up nicely in terms of income coming in. He's got more flexibility with this IRA, because if he elects to pull money out, which you'll see that is what he's electing to do, we do have to account for the taxes. Like, taxes are going to be paid here. There's not a workaround that. So here's what we'll look at. Firstly, what does it look like if I keep doing what I'm doing? Meaning, I just let it grow. And when I die, whatever the balance is left to the next generation, to my children, and then how much will they have to pay in taxes? And then B, what does it look like if I transfer it to a life insurance policy now, which will involve me paying income tax on those distributions right now? So that's what we'll look at. And before we get into the numbers, a little bit of information as far as what people often do, or these are just some ideas as far as what we see and hear people do that are into leaving wealth to the next generation and into legacy planning, is typically what is involved is a trust. So we've got a trust that either owns the life insurance policy and or is the beneficiary of the life insurance policy. And that trust language specifies exactly how that money should be used. So for example, mom and dad have a life insurance policy on them. When they pass, that death benefit is paid income tax-free to who? Is it paid directly to the children? No, it's paid to the trust. So the beneficiary is the trust. And then the trust specifies whatever mom and dad wanted it to specify. So if you have a good tax planning or estate planning attorney, they're going to talk through this with you. I really like attorneys that give you ideas and examples of what other people do. Hey, here's what some people do. For example, I remember years ago, I spoke to an individual. He set up a trust for his 2 daughters, and he said, Steve, I've got it set up for every dollar that my kids earn, the trust pays them another dollar. So if my daughter earns $100,000 through her day job, she gets another $100,000 through the trust. Some parents will set it up where the kids get nothing until they're 30 years old. And some parents say, at age 18 for college, you get X amount of dollars. At age 25, you get X amount of dollars. Maybe we put provisions in there that stipulate that we can only access it for business or real estate. You can set it up however you'd like. Here's an example. With these death benefit proceeds, I want 25% to be used for new policies. I want another 25% to be used to pay off all debts, good debt and bad debt. Maybe it's just good debt. And I want 25% to be used for other opportunities. And then 25% to be used for whatever you'd like, because I'd like to give you a little bit of spending money and have some fun. And maybe it's dollar amounts. What you'll sometimes see too is a family office structure where a group of individuals will agree and approve of any use of the money, meaning the kids cannot just use the money for whatever they'd like. People do have to approve it first. Not all trusts are set up to be this complex. It's really up to you. And there's always ideas you can hear from others. If you're working with us, I'll always talk about this stuff because it's a lot of fun. But a really, really good tax planning attorney can give you ideas and give you a lot more technical details behind trust planning as well. All right, back to the strategy. Let's look at scenario A and scenario B. We'll begin with scenario A. So what we'll look at here is just an IRA, and we're just gonna let it compound at 4%. And we can change the rate here, no problem, but we're just gonna look at the power of compounding. And what would happen in a case like this, we would have RMDs. We're not gonna look at that for this example. We're just gonna keep it simple so you can see what the growth looks like. So if I'm at $1.7 million today, I'm compounding at 4%. Remember, they're in retirement, so we're looking at conservative returns here. What's it look like? Well, by the time dad is 92 and mom is 90, which will be close to when we might be kicking the bucket, maybe a couple years earlier, maybe a couple years later, but when we're both in our 90s, what's the balance? Almost $4.2 million. Okay, so I've got a $4.2 million balance. Let's look at taking some money out. And first, what we can look at too, if we change the interest rate assumption, what happens? Let's make it 5% at the same point in time. Now we've got $5.2 million. This is something that we want to discuss with you or anyone that we're speaking with to really make sure we get the assumptions right. Maybe we change it year in and year out just to try and get the balances accurate, or not accurate, realistic. So let's go back to 4% just to keep things conservative. At 92, let's assume both mom and dad pass and leave the balance to the kids. So we've got 4,190,016. We're going to distribute that. And if the kids are at a 35% tax bracket, 1.4, almost $1.5 million will be due in tax, and they'd be left over with a net of $2.7 million. Now, if you get this much in IRA dollars, which are all tax deferred, would you be in a 35% tax bracket or higher? Higher. What if you spread it out over 10 years? Still probably a very high tax bracket. Now we can't predict what tax brackets will be, but let's change the tax rate to 40%, and what happens? We see more go out the door to taxes, and there's our net amount. 2.5 million left to the next generation. Okay, so that's deferring taxes, and the next generation pays taxes. What if we pay taxes right now? So here, we've got Dad taking distributions from the IRA, $380,000 per year at a 35% tax rate. Here's how much he'll have to pay in tax every year. Remember, he's comfortable right now in terms of his income. So what we've got going on here, today, his IRA balance is $1.7 million. At 4%, we see the compounding. He distributes $380,000, 35% tax rate. How much is due? $133,000. We did look at bumping that up to 40% as well when we looked at different scenarios. Here, $133,000 at the door to taxes, which gives him a net amount of a little bit less than $250,000. So that's what he's left over with after tax. So we're going to do this for 5 years until we drain the account. Maybe the last year we pull out $390,000 or whatever's left over. But you can see what we're doing here. We're taking funds from the IRA right now. We're paying the taxes now, and we're going to move this where? A life insurance policy. That is maximized for cash value, baby. You gotta maximize it for cash value. If you maximize a whole life insurance policy for cash value, long term, you're going to have the maximum amount of life insurance as well. Because if you look at a life insurance illustration, what you'll find with most of them is when you're 100 years old, the cash value and death benefit are equal to each other. So a high cash value life insurance policy will typically have less life insurance up front via the death benefit, but long term, you'll see maximum cash value and maximum life insurance, a maximum death benefit. So it can work very, very nicely for estate planning. So let's look at transferring this. Here we go. So what we've got is as follows. On the left, we've got the same thing we just looked at. This is the IRA transfer. There's the $380,000 gross. There's the taxes due. And there's the net distributions of about $250,000 per year. What we are doing, taking these and moving them over to the life insurance policy. Here, we have a survivorship policy. A big reason why we looked at this policy is the age, particularly of Dad at 70 years old. We did look at individual life insurance illustrations on both of them. A survivorship policy did maximize the overall values, both cash value and death benefit. This is the main reason we looked at this. We discussed both strategies. The big question I always have with this product is if anything happens to you or if anything happens to Mom, is there any chance, even a 1% chance, that you would want the life insurance proceeds? If anything happened to your wife and the death benefit comes to you first, is that very valuable? Vice versa, does that hold true? If the answer is yes, we probably don't want to look at a survivorship policy, or most people don't look at survivorship policies if the answer is yes. The reason why is because with a survivorship policy, the death benefit is not paid out until both Mom and Dad die. So that's a disadvantage to a lot of people. The advantage on the flip side is what? Well, the insurance company knows that there is a very good chance that they're not going to have to pay that claim out for a longer period of time because they know both people have to die. So there's a greater chance of one of them living for a longer period of time. So as a result, you'll find a little bit lower insurance expenses and you can beef up the cash value that way. It's a nice advantage, especially if we're working with couples in their 70s, even their late 70s and early 80s sometimes it can work nicely. Depends on the situation, our health, how much we're funding a policy with, but it can be a nice option, particularly when we're looking at generational wealth, which is really estate planning. So here we're transferring the funds from the IRA to the life insurance policy, $247,000 per year. I just rounded to $250,000 per year because remember, this is the net dollar amount. And here we go. $250,000 goes in. Worst year of the policy is the first year, $209,000 in cash value. Death benefit, just about $3 million. Break-even point, oh, so close to year 5, where you've got $1.25 million paid into the policy, and you just about have $1.25 million in cash value. You're at 1,247. And this is based on the present dividend interest rate. The dividend rate actually just updated with this company. I'd be curious to see if we're a clean year 5 now. That's my OCD, wanted to get the numbers perfect. Anyway, just about there, year 5. And then what happens? He pays 0 into the policy thereafter. He can keep adding money if he wants to. And he could definitely be in a position to do so if the real estate that he owns is cash flowing and he says, hey, I've got a bit more income than I even need right now. Can I just flow some of that cash flow into the policy? The answer would be yes. It doesn't have to be $250,000 every year. The minimum premium is less than $25,000 per year. That's the minimum commitment if he decides to keep on paying. And he's not even paying it here. The policy's paying for itself internally. So it's set up to maximize cash value because he likes to see it there in the event he wants access to it for anything. And then also, we've got the big death benefit that is paid, how? Income tax-free to the next generation. So here's really the thing we want to look at. With this policy, the death benefit is initially $3 million, and it increases, but not until they're both in their 90s here. So if we look at year 23, which just so happens to be that same point in time when we looked to distribute everything, or we assumed mom and dad kicked the bucket. Do you remember how much was in the IRA in the last slide before we looked at distributions early? We're going to compare the two side by side. But really what I would want to know, if this is me or my family, is if I just keep doing what I'm doing and let this puppy grow, and we're pretending RMDs don't exist, which isn't the case, but we can pretend this is just a compounding account. If we just let it grow, how much would be left? How much do the kids have to pay in taxes? And then what's the net amount the kids get compared to putting it into a life insurance policy and they get this amount income tax free? Where do I win? Here we go. So here we're just deferring it. And we're assuming mom and dad pass a 92 and 90. Okay. IRA, balance left to the kids, 4.19. Tax rate at 35%. I think it would be a bit higher than that because it's in addition to whatever their income is. You could stretch it over 10 years. Maybe it's a little bit less. We'd work with a tax planner there. But to keep it simple, one lump sum, you're left over with $2.5 million. Now, what if you made that 5%? What we need to do is this. Look at that. It's interesting what a percentage, what 1% does, right? All of a sudden it puts you in a position where you're very close. I'm going to go back to 4%. I think 5% in retirement, maybe. Versus a life insurance policy, which is just a sure bet in many respects. Just slow and steady wins the race. Big difference there. About a $500,000 difference. Could make it 4.5%. Pretty cool, right? Just where you can compare and contrast like that. And there's a lot of systems out there that are way more fancy than this. This is just something we put together when we were working with someone just to help simplify. What I like to do is just go through one tab at a time to say, here's where you presently are. Here's what it looks like with your money growing. here's what it looks like when we die and the amount of money that's passed on to the next generation. Then here's what it looks like if we take the money out right now. Here's how much you have to pay in tax. Here's the net amount. Then we take that net amount, we move it into a life insurance policy. Here's the cash value that you can use for opportunities. Here's the death benefit. Oh, by the way, you can keep adding money. Here's an illustration that shows that. I would show something like that too. And then here's everything side by side. So you can see the numbers and make the decision that you're most comfortable with. That's really what we want to help someone do. We want to help someone come to a conclusion if this is a fit for them or not. After we see the numbers, and then really just understanding what you can and can't do with the policy. We would throw the RMDs in there as well. But I think you see where I'm going here. We're just looking at numbers to really see how we can transfer wealth to the next generation, or see if it makes sense with a strategy that's different than what we're doing right now. With all of that said, I hope you enjoyed this video. This was a lot of fun. Putting this together, working with the family was a lot of fun as well. If you do have questions, please leave them in the comments below. If you're interested in talking all things cash value life insurance or looking into a policy for yourself, please check out our website, ibcglobalinc.com. And until the next video, bye for now. Hey guys, Steve here with IBC Global. Thank you so much for watching the video. If you're interested in a whole life insurance policy and you'd like to work with our company in setting it up, please visit our website, ibcglobalinc.com. We would love to work with you. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments below. And as always, I hope this helps.